think we are the best. Yeah, I think actually keep him in.
Good evening. Thank you everybody for coming. We're going to get started in a few minutes. If everybody can get their seats, we're going to get started in just a moment. Thank you for attending our short-term rental community meeting. We appreciate the time you've all taken out of your schedule to attend this important meeting. I'm Kathleen Mallory. I'm the Planning and Environmental Services Manager for the City of Oxnard. And this evening, I also have Kim Lee with me, and I'll explain his role in just a few minutes. With us this evening, I know we've got some staff members. Also, we have Scott Whitney, the Assistant City Manager. We have Greg Nyhoff as well, the City Manager in the back. We also have Commissioner Deidre Frank here, and Kim Horner, the Economic Development Director. We also have Ashley Golden, the Development Services Director here as well. And we also have present a number of many staff members from various departments here to support this meeting, and we're thankful for everybody to be here. To assist this evening, as I mentioned, we have Kim Lee, who's a facilitator, and he'll be helping with this community meeting to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to be heard, that our meeting stays on target, and that the meeting functions in a productive and focused manner. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it to Ken. I did have two little housekeeping items. First of all, I wanted to make sure that everyone did sign in the entryway, so thank you for doing that. If you did not, let us know. We're happy to just even bring it to you for sign-in. And also that everyone secured one of these when they came in. We'll explain the purpose of this towards the end part of our presentation this evening. All right, so with that, I'm going to introduce Ken Lee.
Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon. My name is Ken. I'm going to be your facilitator for tonight. Just a little bit of background about me so you know who I am. I spent most of my career on the public sector side, and then also spent time consulting. A lot of my experience has been community development as well as looking at growth. I recently helped facilitate 3 workshops up in the city of Ventura. And I have to say that one thing that is always surprising to me about Ventura County, both in Ventura and Oxnard, is the amount of community engagement there is. Obviously, you're all here tonight, but it really is a testament about your passion for your community, and I really want to applaud that. So thank you for being here. How many of you have ever been to the city of Davis? Oh, wow. 30 years ago, none of you would have known what Davis was. So I actually grew up in Davis, went to college there. And one thing I have to tell you is that, other than the cows and the bikes, that there is a huge amount of community engagement in that city as well. And that kind of passion for your community is pretty rare, particularly where I live in LA and Orange County. But that's what makes Ventura County very unique. So again, I just want to applaud you for being here tonight. I also want to really set some expectations for tonight. And I know that many of you, and let me just commend you on your attire, particularly the white t-shirts that are here. So if I can also ask you to hold your applause, I would really appreciate that as well. But I do want to recognize that this is a highly sensitive topic, obviously. It can be very controversial. As a consultant that has worked up and down the state, this issue is a difficult one in any community, particularly coastal communities, as you know. And so I want to really recognize the difficulty of this issue, but I also want to set some clear expectations for tonight and explain that there is a process that the city staff is laying out to eventually get to the Planning Commission and the City Council with some recommendations. And I'll explain kind of the phase we're in now and why we're here tonight. But let me just go over real quick about the objectives for tonight. Because some of you are obviously going to be more versed on the topic of STRs than others, and I assume that's the ones wearing the t-shirts. Some of you have attended prior community meetings on this topic, but there are others that may be new to the topic. And so one of the key objectives for tonight is to get everybody on sort of level ground here. We want to level set because we want to make sure that as part of this public process that everyone is fully informed and well equipped to fully engage and participate in the public process as it unfolds. So a large part of tonight, and what you're going to hear from Kathleen, is a presentation to provide background information about STRs, to talk about what they are, what they're not, to talk about what's different in the coastal zone and non-coastal zone, and also to talk about best practices. So one of the things that the staff has been doing, because this is still an early topic for this particular community. So one of the things that staff has been doing is a lot of research with other communities, both coastal and non, around this topic. So she's going to be sharing that information with you. And then we'll be explaining how this is going to roll into tonight's exercise as well. So secondarily, you all, most of you know that there was a survey conducted online through SurveyMonkey. And I will emphasize again, that was a very preliminary survey, really to just get a pulse, not to necessarily dive deep into details around STRs, how to regulate them, but really get a pulse from the community about how do you feel about them, right? And so she's going to also be sharing the results from that survey as well. Many of you know that it's already been posted online, but what staff wanted to have an opportunity to do was explain really how staff has synthesized that survey and pulled out key themes, which she's going to be sharing some of those themes as well. And then a real key part of the exercise, or part of the meeting tonight, is that we're going to be breaking into a exercise where we're going to be asking you, as you all have sticker dots, we're going to be asking you to engage in that exercise. Now, one thing I want to be very clear about in terms of expectations is that tonight we're still in data collection mode, because even the staff is still trying to get up to speed in terms of information about what's out there in terms of best practices, but also additional information diving a little bit deeper than the SurveyMonkey survey that was done online. And that's the purpose of tonight's exercise. And when I say that, what I'm trying to explain is that tonight is not a public forum. That's why there's no speaker cards. So there's not going to be a public comment portion of tonight. So I'm going to respectfully ask for your patience and your understanding as far as this process is concerned. I'm also going to be asking you to hold your questions until we break for the exercise. And then Kathleen will be available, other staff will be available, and the real thrust of why we have set up this room this way, as you look around, there are stations and staff sitting at each of the stations, is we want to promote more direct dialogue. So you are not going to be able to get as much information asking questions from your seats, particularly because of the sheer mass of the people that are here. That would take all night. And so that's why we want to be able to promote this type of dialogue that's more direct, ask questions to the staff, ask questions to the key staff that are around the room as well, and then also to provide your input to dive a little deeper on the issue. So in terms of expectations, we'll discuss also what's going to happen in terms of next steps. So let me talk about, there's no good community meeting without ground rules, right? So obviously, first one, very easy. Cell phones, if you do not have it on vibrate or silent mode, please do so right now. And again, as we talked about earlier, with the passion in this room for this community, we just want to recognize that you're all here because you care about this community. And because of that, we're also asking you to be respectful and considerate, not just to hopefully the facilitator, but also to one another tonight. And that includes in terms of your interactions as well as your overall. So in providing written comments, and one thing I'm going to explain later is how the comments are going to be translated and synthesized eventually for presentation to the Planning Commission and City Council. I'm going to ask you to be clear and concise, not to overgeneralize on your comments if you do write written comments. One thing, this is a must, please be legible on your comment cards, because there's going to be a staff person that is going to have to actually transpose all that into a document. So I'm going to ask you to please write legibly and take your time with that. And obviously, no brainer here, but please no side conversations and no personal attacks as part of that. So let me explain, and for the folks in the back, this is going to be a little bit harder to see, but let me explain what's on this chart. So this is really explaining the overall process and where we are tonight. So again, this topic is still, although there's been a lot of community dialogue that has already happened, both outside of the city process. But this is still fairly a recent or new topic for this community and many other communities. But to start to get up to speed, since November, the city has started to actually monitor STRs, to try to better understand STRs, to talk with the county about what they're doing with STRs. Beginning dialogue with the Coastal Commission about STRs and their position on STRs from a policy standpoint. But also, as I mentioned earlier, doing the research to make sure that we're not sitting here talking in a vacuum, that we're looking at best practices, what's happening elsewhere in the state. So that has led to the March and April survey that was done online, which in June, the results were posted on the STR project website online, which we'll provide the link for that later. So that leads again to tonight, which is the community meeting, where we again want to provide information to level set, but we also want to dive a little bit deeper to get some additional feedback on some key topics, which are really coming out of staff's research and is coming out of the survey that was already done. What I really want to point out here is, although this is not a public forum with speaker cards and opportunities to speak, this is the area where staff is doing the data collection and needs assessment of understanding this issue. Then we move into taking all of the data that's been collected along the way and all of the research and starting to really formulate the issue so that the Planning Commission can have a fruitful conversation about this topic. But that also means, again, like I said earlier, that you're also equipped to do so as well. So the opportunities are not going to end tonight. I want to point out that there's a possible study session that could be Planning Commission, Council, or both, we don't know. But obviously this will go to Planning Commission and City Council if there is an ordinance that is going to be moving toward regulating STRs in this community. So with that,
Great, okay, thank you, Ken.
and I'm going to ask to hold those questions, but yes, that's part of the conversation, which actually Kathleen's going to address.
Perfect, great, thank you, Ken, thank you for the time. I'm not going to be able to walk and mingle, so you have the PowerPoint, appreciate that. So I'm just going to sit here, I'll project, and hopefully you guys can all see me there. On the next slide, I wanted to go over an overview of short-term rentals and how our current municipal code addresses that issue. So currently right now, a short-term rental is a dwelling unit. I'm going to read that there. It's a dwelling unit that is rented to a tenant for a period of not more than 30 consecutive days. It's currently not addressed in the city's zoning code. Short-term rentals have operated in the city for years. The city finance department collects transit occupancy tax. You'll see that referred to as TOT. On self-reported STRs, historically STRs are treated as a residential activity. Most cities define short-term rentals, I'm going to hold back on that one for a second. Most cities define short-term rentals as a dwelling unit that's rented to a tenant for a period of less than 30 consecutive days. And the 30-day definition was chosen for several reasons. One, the building code defines transit occupancies as less than 30 days. After 30 days, state law recognizes a tenant-renter relationship, and certain renter rights are guaranteed to those staying within the dwelling unit. And lastly, why was 30 days that benchmark? 30 days is tied to the local TOT tax, and its definition as transit is a person who exercises occupancy or is entitled to occupancy by reason of concession, permit, right of access, license, or other agreement for a period of 30 consecutive days or less, counting portions of calendar days or full days, unless there is an agreement in writing between the operator and the occupant provided for a period of occupancy longer than 30 days. So that's the origins for that. That next slide, number 9. The California Coastal Commission, or which is the CC, California Coastal Commission, must approve any regulations in the coastal zone. Any regulation that bans affected properties within the coastal zone will need to be approved by the California Coastal Commission. That's an important distinction in a coastal community. In order to protect beach accessibility and promote lower cost alternatives to hotel stays, the California Coastal Commission has a track record of not allowing the complete prohibition over or regulation or over-regulation of short-term rentals. The cities of Encinitas and Pismo Beach proposed prohibiting STRs in their community. The Coastal Commission then overturned those bans. Prior to City Council adoption of an STR ban, the city of Hermosa Beach was notified by the Coastal Commission that such action was counter to Coastal Commission policy. Recent ordinances banning STRs in the coastal communities of Santa Barbara and Santa Monica are in the process of being reaffirmed by the Coastal Commission. Such codes may have existed prior to creation of the Coastal Commission or prior to their policy to encourage STRs as affordable alternatives to hotel and motel occupancy, thereby allowing increased beach access by the public. So now I want to just go into the status of our survey. In March and April of this year, as Ken mentioned, we conducted an online survey to solicit community input regarding the issue, this important issue. The survey was open, the dates you see there. The survey was publicized on the city's website, city Facebook page. We also emailed interested individuals, associations, those who had expressed an interest in the project, and we also made an announcement at the Planning Commission meeting. We received 840 responses. 750 pertained only to City of Oxnard residents. The survey was never meant to lead directly to crafting regulations and requirements. And I think that's an important distinction as well. SurveyMonkey monitored the IP addresses to prevent one device from submitting multiple surveys. It is feasible that interested parties could have submitted additional input through different devices. The survey was not designed to be a tool to solicit decisions on this issue. It was merely just to solicit input as a beginning point for conversation. And as a result of that survey, a lot of meaningful input was received, showing both positive and negative impacts of short-term rentals. Some topics tonight that you'll see on these boards are a direct result of input that we received from that survey, in addition to our professional research in looking at other communities. Now I'd like to go into these, and again, this entire presentation this evening will be available on our project-specific website, and these details, they are small, I'll hit the big points. This is also available online as well through our project-specific website. For the first question, let's go over the survey. There was a question asked if you are a homeowner, renter, vacationer, or short-term rental operator, and you could select multiple responses here. 90% of the respondents were homeowners. For question number 2, the question was asked pertaining to residency or operations in the city. 72% of the respondents were full-time residents of the city of Oxnard. For question number 3, the question was asked if respondents identified with a specific neighborhood. The majority of the responses came from properties located within the coastal zone. For question 4, the question was asked to list how many short-term rentals you are aware of within your neighborhood. 1/3 of the respondents were unaware of any short-term rentals near them. Generally, respondents were more aware of short-term rentals in coastal zones than in inland neighborhoods. For question number 5, the question was asked, how do you perceive the presence of short-term rentals within your neighborhood? Nearly half of the respondents were of the opinion that short-term rentals had a negative impact upon their community. Question number 6, the question asked, where should short-term rentals be located? 47% believed short-term rentals should be located within single-family neighborhoods. 50% believed that they should be located in commercial areas. For question 7, that question asked, should short-term rentals be required to secure a permit? A follow-up question regarding this topic asked more specifics on permit details. 72% of the respondents agreed, or strongly agreed as well, that short-term rentals should be required to secure a permit. Question 7B, a follow-up to that question in terms of permit issues. That question 7B asked, should short-term rentals have a minimum night stay? 61% of the respondents agreed that short-term rentals should be required to have a minimum night stay. Question 7C, should short-term rentals secure a business license and pay taxes similar to hotels? 69% of the respondents agreed that short-term rentals should be required to secure a business license and pay similar taxes as hotels do. Question 7D asked if a responsible caretaker should be available at all times to address problems. 90% of the respondents agreed that a caretaker should be available at all times to respond to problems. Question 8 asked, what is the minimum number of night stays that a short-term rental should be rented? Most respondents believe that the minimum rental duration should fall somewhere between 2 and 7 days. 1/4 of the respondents were of the opinion that rentals should be required to rent for no less than 30 days. So as you can see, as the next slide will show, there was consensus in the survey data that short-term rentals should be regulated. So now let's go to the next slide in terms of reviewing what we heard from you. We heard that short-term rentals should be prohibited, that they create noise, that they create parking, that they create trash issues, that they create traffic concerns in your neighborhood. We heard that these activities affect community of life, community character, and that they're not consistent with the residential character. We heard that through the survey data. We've heard that through your emails as well. But we also heard that short-term rentals should be allowed, that they create tourism, that they should be considered a property right, that they boost the economy, and that they lead to overall community financial health and familial health. To address what we've heard from the community, we're looking at short-term rental regulations from a variety of communities. This is by no means a comprehensive list. We have looked at even more, but we want to just put that up there for you. We looked at both coastal and non-coastal communities, and any, as I mentioned earlier, importantly, any potential regulations will need to be approved by the California Coastal Commission. We've also consulted with adjacent cities, as well as following the activities of the County of Ventura. We've also reviewed information from inland communities that have extensive experience with short-term rentals, such as Big Bear and Lake Tahoe, and some other tourist communities that have been dealing with this issue for a number of years. So in terms of best practices in consulting other cities, in the next slide, Ken, let me go over some of the best practices that we heard in the survey, that we've heard in emails, that we've researched, and that we've been party to through our discussions with other communities. One was, I'm just going to hit a few of the highlights here. One that dealt with requiring a nuisance response plan, which that would mean that the short-term rental operator would secure that permit. Another is requiring a permit and an associated permit application fee. Another was establishing a separation requirement. Posting the site with the contact.
What is the separation requirement?
We'll get into that in the presentation, in the community exercise. And again, thank you for those points. If you can hold them, I guarantee you that your questions will be answered as you go along. And if not, you can find me. Thank you. Also, posting the site with the contact name, the operator, when the site's actively rented. Establishing a maximum occupancy, overnight and daytime occupancy. Requiring that the lease state the number of available off-street parking spaces. Stipulating the trash and refuse shall not be stored in public view except containers for collection between certain specific hours. And also advertising must include a city permit number. So those are some of the best practices that we have identified that we thought this community may be interested in. There are a number of other best practices. So at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Ken. He's going to walk you through this meaningful community exercise, and we will be here to support that effort.
Great, thank you, Kathleen. So that was a lot of information, and that's why Kathleen is going to be available. Try not to overcrowd her when we break into the exercise. But if you have specific questions, particularly technical questions about STRs that help you actually engage in the next exercise, please do ask Kathleen. You can also ask the other staff around the tables depending on the question. But what I wanted to ask you to do at this time was to go ahead and take the sheet that you have. Please just take a second, if I can get your attention. Look around the room. Again, there are 7 tables that are set up for this exercise tonight. And what we're going to ask you to do is please, 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 only use one sticker per station. Okay, I know there's a desire to want to take all your stickers and put them on one, but I'm asking you to please only put one sticker per station. There are 2 boards at each station. There are also 2 staff at each station. So the staff is there to not only provide guidance if you have any questions about the exercise, they're also there if you want to talk about STRs and particular questions related to the topic at each of the stations. So the stations that we have, as Kathleen mentioned, really came out of staff's review from the survey results as well as the best practice research, different ways that other communities are addressing and regulating STRs. And let me just go over them very quickly and then I'm going to actually walk you through them, okay? So maximum daytime occupancy is one topic. I'm going to explain that when I get to that slide because that can be a little bit confusing. Minimum distance between STRs, that was your question. What does it mean to have separation between STRs? It's a distance requirement between the STRs. Seasonal changes to minimum night stays, meaning peak, off-peak, should there be different regulations? If I can ask you to hold it till after. Correct.
Okay, we'll explain
Yeah.
that. We'll explain
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. It is a distance between 2 STRs. So, maximum number of nights rented per year, minimum rental duration, meaning how many minimum nights are required for each rental. And then for homestays, does everybody know what a homestay is? A homestay is where the actual homeowner is actually there. So they're renting out additional space or a room to a family or an individual. Homestays are actually picking up a lot of popularity in other cities and other communities, which is why it's on this part of this exercise as well. And then there will be a 7th station, which is not listed, which is a question about banning STRs outright, which I know many of you are going to want to go to that one right away. I'm going to ask you to do a scramble and please spread out and don't overcrowd one station either. And then it is here. I will explain. Let me go ahead and explain, just go through this. You'll notice that the colored dots are actually going to correspond to the tables. If the colors are not clear to you, please just ask the staff at the table. So let me go through each of the topics one by one. Okay? And I know it's a little bit hard to read because of the black font. But the first topic has to do with limiting the number of guests who visit an STR. So that's not talking about the actual renter. That's, are there daytime guests that are visiting them for whatever reasons? And obviously this has to do with traffic, noise, parking, and those considerations. So the question is pretty simple, is do you support a limit on the number of guests who visit an STR? So if you do support a limit, then you would say yes, and put your sticker, and you're going to see the boards over there. There is space under each of the answers. You just place your sticker under each of those. Now, let me pause here and say, obviously, we're not going to be able to hear all of your concerns from a sticker, right? So you'll also notice at each table there are 2 baskets. And the staff have comment cards. Ask them for a comment card if you would like to provide additional comments on that particular topic. If, and we know that we're not going to be able to address each of your concerns through just 7 stations, if there's a topic that you don't see at one of these stations, there's 2 additional baskets over there on the table to my right, your left, for any topics that are not covered in one of the stations. Okay? So we're going to ask you to please go ahead and do the sticker. Don't just do the comment cards. Please also do the sticker dot as well. Okay, let me go through the rest of these pretty quickly because we want to maximize the amount of time that you have to actually visit each station. So on the minimum distance between the STRs, not between an STR or anything else, between the actual STRs, should there be a minimum distance? And If the answer is no, there shouldn't be a minimum distance, put your sticker there. If you say yes, then there's a few options here in terms of 100 feet, 200 feet, and 400 feet. So just for frame of reference, 100 feet is about 2 residential lots. Okay, so 2 houses down. Okay, if it's 400 feet in inland neighborhoods, it's about 1 block, neighborhood block. But keep in mind that in coastal areas, the blocks tend to be a little bit bigger as well. Okay? So, again, if you don't feel like 100, 200, 400 is relative to, let's say, you want, we'll still put it at 400 and you can submit a comment card. Make sense?
Why would we support 400?
Okay, well, that, I agree.
Well, that's the reason for the comment card. Yeah. So in terms of the third topic, the green station, this has to do with seasonal changes to the minimum rental duration. And should there be seasonal changes to that? So in other words, if you say no, then the year-round minimum rental duration should be the same year-round. Okay. If you say yes, then you're saying that during summer or tourist seasons or during peak seasons, that the duration could be longer, right? During holiday seasons or tourist seasons, or shorter in the rest of the year. Just keep in mind, obviously 90 days for summer. So I think about a little over 100 days, total weekend days throughout the entire year. So the fourth topic has to do with maximum number of nights rented per year. So should an STR be limited to a maximum number of rentals per year? So in other words, if you have a home that is operating as an STR, should they be capped throughout the entire year for a maximum number of nights? So once they've rented out for 90, let's say 90 nights, they're done. They're not renting anymore for the rest of the year. So the choices there are 90, 120, and 180. So the rental duration, what minimum rental duration should be established? And so this is minimum nights that you have to have a stay. It could be 1, 2, 3, 7, or 10. You realize that some may want a longer duration, but again, this is why we're also wanting to provide the opportunity for the comment cards. So again, this is home stays. So this is only if the homeowner is actually there on the property. Should a property owner be required to be on site while the unit is being rented? So this is a question about, do you want a home stay? So no would be, I don't support requiring the property owner to stay on site for any rentals that are less than 30 nights. Yes will be, I support requiring the property owner to remain on site. Number 7, you're all waiting for this, I know, or some of you are. Should STRs be banned in Oxnard? Now you heard Kathleen talk about coastal commission, some of the complications there, but we did want to have an opportunity for you to obviously address this. I am going to please ask that if you put your sticker on number 7, that you also visit the other stations. Okay. I know some of you prefer to just say ban it, but if number 7.
Which is the answer?
If you say yes, you're saying yes, ban it. STRs should not be allowed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Yes, ban. No, don't ban. Okay? So again, please visit the other stations because if it's not banned, then we still want input on topics for regulations. So let me just talk about what's going to happen after this exercise, because we're actually going to go ahead and let you engage in the exercise and then go ahead and go home and eat dinner, because I'm hungry right now myself, okay? But after the meeting, the next step is really for the staff, and you have no idea, I have actually done this before. To synthesize this volume of data is very difficult, but that is something the staff is committing to, and they will take all of the input from this meeting, both the sticker dots as well as all the comment cards from the stations, as well as the other category comment cards, and they'll be taking that and synthesizing that for presentation to the Planning Commission and City Council. And again, the results of this meeting will also be posted on the project website, which is www.oxnard.org/STR. So with that, I'm going to release you, and please do not go to only one station, please scramble. And one other thing as you're getting up, we do also want to point out, folks, I'm sorry, let me pause. We do also want to point out there are many different ways to provide input, not just through the exercise tonight, but you can also email comments to info.str@oxnard.org. And you can also join the mailing list by signing the sign-in sheet and call the planning department. So I'm going to leave this slide up for you guys in case you want to write down the email address or the phone. Thank you.
As it said in the report.
See, I'm already almost screwed up. Oh yeah. I've already done it. So next here. Yeah. If the summer comes, they'll get everybody across. No, I see. I mean, look what's wrong. Look, I mean, forget about all the stuff. Go look at the neighborhood that they're screwed up. Look at the people that are saying, one day they said, yeah.